The Ashkenaz Festival, North America's largest celebration of Jewish music, arts, and culture, is happening at venues across Toronto from August 27th to September 2nd. Witness diverse musical expressions of the Jewish experience, from klezmer and Yiddish styles to Sephardic, Mizrahi, Falasha music, and much more. Go to ashkenaz.ca for venue and ticket information.
We believe the spirit of Israel, known as the Startup Nation, can be harnessed to tackle the climate crisis. And JNF, with its deep roots in environmental solutions, can help make that happen.
One of the Jewish National Fund of Canada's newest ventures is the Climate Solutions Prize, sort of like the Nobel Prize, but for green science. $3 million a year to the best and brightest scientists who invent better ways to slow down climate change. The concept has some big names behind it. Stephen Bronfman and the Alvin Siegel Foundation, the Goodman Family Foundation, Jeff Hartz, too. JNF Canada's Quebec branch launched the prize 2 years ago in 2022, and at first the money went only to researchers and startup companies in Israel. But since the prize founders are from Montreal, there's now a Quebec version as well for homegrown talent in that province. Earlier this month, the CRA stripped JNF Canada of its charitable status, and to understand the reasons why, you can read our extensive coverage of the story on our website at thecjn.ca or our interview yesterday with JNF's CEO Lance Davis. All the links are in our show notes. Now back to the Climate Solutions Prize. Just weeks before the revocation was announced, JNF Canada's branch office in Montreal organized a festival and a gala dinner for this year's homegrown winners of the 2024 prize. And while the charity's website is still accepting donations, there's a warning that donors cannot get tax receipts at this time.
I'm sure I'm not the only one who's hesitating. I wouldn't make a donation now, although, let's face it, Israel could use lots and lots of help now. But to JNF, maybe not right now.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News.
I can't date women right now because I'm too busy calling myself a piece of shit.
I had a dysfunctional Jewish mother and I had a dysfunctional Native mother.
I had 25 full years of utter struggle and failure.
I started to realize the absurdity of my inability to let go of this monster of guilt.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Hi, I'm Ralph Benrig. I'm the host of Not That Kind of Rabbi, where we look at people's spiritual journeys and take a little time for their self-reflection, and maybe yours. You can get it all at thecjn.ca/NTKR or wherever you get your podcasts.
JNF Canada's CEO Lance Davis told us donors are giving money anyway without receipts because the work in Israel is important. But Mary Ellen Herman isn't so sure. The Toronto philanthropist brought her grandchildren with her to southern Israel in December 2022 to inaugurate a new accessible playground for children in wheelchairs and their families. It's in Kiryat Malachi near Ashkelon. She paid $250,000, half the cost of the project, in memory of her late daughter Elizabeth Rose, who died in 1995 when she was 10. Herman was stunned to hear the playground had been caught up in the charity's compliance issues with the Revenue Agency. Documents show the CRA highlighted the playground as one of the reasons why it decided to revoke JNF Canada's charitable status. The auditor said the charity had promised to start using a new robust agency agreement with Karen Kayemet in Israel. It would guarantee the money went where it was supposed to go, and it would ensure the paperwork and invoices would be carefully checked and then translated into English so the auditors could read them. But none of that happened. Mary Ellen Herman joins us now. Welcome to the CJN Daily.
Good to be here.
Well, it's good to speak to you as somebody who has been deeply involved as a philanthropist with JNF Canada. What went through your mind when you heard the news?
Well, I was shocked, but the irony was that I was at a JNF golf tournament to thank donors when it was announced before it came out in the news. And it just took us all by surprise. The CEO, Lance Davis, gave a talk and he told us there was nothing to worry about. It would be appealed and everything would be fine. And then it hit the news, hours later. And it was shocking because it's an organization that everyone in that room or on that golf course was deeply involved with and cared passionately about.
Had you had any inkling until that golf date that there were financial issues with compliance and stuff that they were fighting for such a long time with the Canadian Revenue Department?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, my gift was handled beautifully. There was never a problem. I can't even remember paperwork filling it out. I made this donation, and in return, we had this fabulous accessible playground that was built, and everything was fine. I don't remember. I gather there was news in 2016, but I didn't pay any attention to that. It was a long time ago. It was before I'd even thought of making a gift to JNF. So I was totally in the dark about this.
What do you want to know as a donor, as a Jewish Canadian? What do you want?
Well, I guess the first question that most of the people at this event, when we learned the news, were asking about was, would our tax receipts in the future still continue to be processed? I mean, I made my gift in 2022 and everything was kosher and done fine. But future gifts are in jeopardy. We were given some explanation. I can't really follow it through, but that there would be a way of satisfying everyone in the future. It would be restructured somehow. But we never were told that there was any problem.
I'm not, in that league. So for me, getting a tax receipt is important. How important is the fact that they can't give tax receipts to somebody who gives major donations?
Well, I think it's hugely important. I mean, you're talking big, big donations. You plant trees for $20-25, it's not the end of the world. But, if you're talking over a couple of 100,000, millions, whatever, you're doing something that wouldn't otherwise be done. Yeah, you want your tax receipt, although the government is enacting some new rules that's going to become more difficult too. It seemed very strange to us all because it happened this year, of all years, after October 7th. It just seemed too coincidental to have it happen like this.
What do you mean by coincidental? What does that say?
Well, I have a friend who works for United Hatzalah, and she said they were told that there would be more scrutiny by CRA of Jewish charities after October 7th. And that's when this happened, after October 7th. So that is strange. Then when I look back and I see the compliance issues, they were in place. It's been a number of years. There's nothing suspicious about this charity in my mind. They do wonderful work.
So I sent some of the documents that were released to the public by the CRA, but it's 358 long pages detailing years of serious and dating back not just now, not even 2022, 2019, 2018, 2016, 2014, 1989, there were problems. And they singled out two projects that the government said, okay, send us two new ones. If you can't get the paperwork from 2012 and 2011, send us two newer ones. And one of them was yours. How did that sit with you?
Well, I was in absolute shock. I mean, it wasn't until you sent me the government document, and this is quite a few weeks after we first heard about the story breaking, I had no idea. And in fact, all I could think about was, well, there won't be any problem with this project because it's like a wonderful thing. It has nothing to do with, as CBC, I think, reported something about projects that were being built on army bases. Well, this project here, this accessible playground, is in an area south of Tel Aviv. It's a really poor, underserviced immigrant area. It is a wonderful, wonderful facility. And I was shocked. I figured there had to be a mistake. There couldn't be anything the matter with it.
So what did the government say wasn't in order about yours?
Well, they didn't say specifically. It's the paperwork. And some of the paperwork had to be in Hebrew and English. And it was a lot of rigmarole that I I can't really follow.
According to these documents, the government wasn't saying there was anything intrinsically fraudulent at all about your project. They were more, as you said, it's an administration issue when an auditor says, okay, give me all your tax receipts, give me all your books, give me proof that you guys actually did what you said you were going to do, and they couldn't. Not to the satisfaction of the CRA.
Yes, but in actual fact, the project is there, it's complete. I'm a donor, I'm satisfied. The children who were using the playground were very satisfied. So from my end, I don't understand what those details are.
Okay. Do you want to tell us a bit about this project?
2 years ago, as a legacy and a memorial and something to connect my grandchildren. I have 6 grandchildren, and I wanted to take them to Israel, and I wanted them to learn about tzedakah, charity, and I thought JNF and their Builders Project would be the right way to go. I had no idea what was on offer, but I knew that they could satisfy me, and I thought it would be smaller than it was. We got a bit carried away, but I brought all the kids, the 6 grandkids, to JNF. We even had a video Zoom with the mayor of Sderot, who was lovely. Unfortunately, we didn't choose his project. We looked at a lot of different things. All the kids had input. They ranged from 22 to 12 at that time. And I guess I had to nudge and point the needle a little bit more because I lost a child to a serious blood disorder, and she could not play in the playgrounds we even have in Canada. I think that there was a modest attempt by Canadian Tire to fund accessible playgrounds in Canada. One of my grandchildren and I went to look at the one at Earl Bales Park, and it was in disrepair. It was closed at the time, and it was very disappointing. When I heard there was an accessible playground available south of Tel Aviv in an underserviced immigrant area, and it was almost at the point where we would have it ready by December. That's when December 22 is when I took the kids to visit. It just seemed that would honor my late daughter's memory. And it would be a place for my grandchildren to come visit when they got older, and something they could tell their kids about.
So the playground itself was already up and running, or?
There was the spot for it because there were matching funds from JNF. It was a big, expensive project. These things are expensive because of the materials. I guess the ground has to be soft. There's special equipment, so the parents who are in wheelchairs can help their kids up. So there are wide enough entranceways to the various swings and slides and things. It's quite wonderful. The day we were there was a mother with her baby who was 6 or 8 months old. Her baby was blind, born blind, and she had tears in her eyes when she was telling me how much this is going to mean to her little girl to grow up and have a place, because it's all going to be accessible for someone who can't see, who can't walk, who has maybe some other disabilities. And there were kids who were fully able. My kids were enjoying it. They were having a wonderful time there too. It was really nice for a parent who's in a wheelchair to be able to put their child on a swing or a slide.
And are you doing other philanthropy with them now, with other things, or this was like a one-shot deal? Or?
Well, it was a one-shot thing, but the idea is that I will always do more. But I'm telling you, if there is going to be this scrutiny, if the charity is not run properly, if the government is intervening in whatever, it's going to put a hold on everyone's donations. For the future for JNF, it's dismal. And they're not doing, from my perspective, I didn't think they did anything wrong. So I don't know what it is. I don't really understand all those details. Your listeners are mostly Jewish, and I hope that they support Jewish charities and charities in Israel, because it is important, because if not us, who?
Montreal philanthropist Jonathan Goodman was part of that Climate Solutions event. Indeed, he's one of the project's key backers, $500,000 from his family's foundation, and he's also fundraised for the rest of the $10 million enterprise. Goodman explains why tax receipts are vital for donors like him and predicts everything will work out in the near future. And he joins me now.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's good to meet you. We've covered your charity and your donations and your initiatives for a long time. You founded this prize called the CSP, the Climate
Solution Prize. I'd love to take credit for it. It's actually Jeffrey Hart. It's his brainchild. I'm just the bag man. I'm just the campaign chair. It was launched in 2022, and we've raised like close to $10 million for the best innovation to deal with climate change coming out of Israel and Quebec.
When you heard about the revocation notice that stripped the JNF Canada of its charitable status, what was your reaction? What went through your mind?
It sounded like it was the bureaucracy gone wrong. And I spoke with Lance Davis, who capably runs JNF, and he explained to me that it was about this charitable object that's been around since 1967. And then he explained that they likely should have changed it, and correspondence with CRA just was not going well until the most recent news. This has been the charitable object of JNF since 1967, since the year I was born. So for 57 years, this has been the charitable object of JNF. CRA, to the best of my understanding, has been to audit JNF 4 times over the last 57 years. And then all of a sudden, the charitable object in 2024, it becomes not just an issue, but an issue where they want to shut the doors. I'm a lawyer, but I've never practiced the day of law, but I do know due process. And this certainly doesn't sound like proper due process of the law. It doesn't sound like JNF had ample time to correspond with CRA and to come up with an amicable solution. It sounded like CRA was coming with their guns blazing. And I think that's wrong.
Did you have any idea that these problems date back not just till August 10th, but 10 years and more?
No, I had no idea.
So you had no idea about these audits or anything? They didn't disclose it?
I had ideas of the audit. I didn't appreciate the severity of it, but it was certainly shared.
Now that JNF cannot issue charitable receipts going forward, what impact does that have on your work and on you guys personally?
I believe this issue will be resolved, that pragmatism will lead the way and a solution will be found, and there won't be an impact on charitable donations given to JNF.
As a philanthropist in the top tier, could you sort of help us understand whether getting a charitable receipt is a good thing that people who are in your level of giving want in order to make them give or encourage to give, and not just the JNF, but in general?
Yeah. Receipting is a critical benefit of making donations. It makes it much more affordable. You can do more with less with a charitable receipt. And I believe that JNF and CRA will resolve their issues. It will be resolved. Cooler heads will prevail.
Well, JNF said they were blindsided.
It goes back to due process of the law. At minimum, in my opinion, to say, while we're negotiating through the court system, through adjudication, you cannot issue tax receipts seems just very draconian. It just seems overly harsh.
The CRA audit is the one that started in 2014, looking at 2 years before that, from 2011 to 2012. And that's the crux of this latest dispute. And the notice that was given by the CRA dates back to 2019, that we're going to sanction you. We're going to revoke you. So it's been 5 years that they've known that this is coming. So, like you said, they didn't have due process, but they had 5 years. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I think what matters is how we're going to resolve this issue going forward. Because we are a resilient people, and we will figure a way forward that will not impact donors. I don't know what that's going to be. I just know there'll be a workable solution that allows the causes, not necessarily JNF, allows the causes to continuously be funded. The causes will not suffer. As Theodore Herzl said, Im terzu in Zoagada, where there's a will, there's a way.
Interpreting what you just said, maybe not JNF, do you worry that this could be the death knell for the JNF because they might lose?
Not at all. JNF has a crazy strong brand. I mean, We both grew up with little blue boxes in our house. JNF is not going anywhere. JNF, they make the world a better place. And we need JNF. The world needs JNF.
Part of the documentation that the CRA was complaining about, you're right, it was about the purpose, the charitable purpose. But the other one was the lack of record keeping, the lack of proper controls over the projects, the lack of proof that Canadian interests were being actually supervised over there in Israel. Did you know about this?
As a messy bookkeeping, if I'm a fundraiser and JNF is a fundraising organization, I'm focused on bringing in the dollars. I'm probably not spending as much time on the back office because I need to raise money to support planting trees, building reservoirs, really improving the life of vulnerable communities in Israel. And so I may not have done all my homework, have dotted all my I's and crossed my T's, but that's not a reason to shut them down. That's a reason to say, you know what, you got to pull up your socks. CRA needed to have said, these are the 10 things that you're not doing right. Here are your 6 months to fix it. If you don't fix it, we're going to shut you down. That's not what they did. There was no warning. Listen, and let the courts, because I know JNF is availing themselves of the court. Let the courts adjudicate on this. This is what courts are for. In the interim, let them continue to make a difference. Let them continue to do their job. They're not hurting anybody by not having great books. They're not hurting the world. By not planting trees, they're hurting the world.
What has the board and people like yourselves who have deep ties to the JNF been asking from the top brass for assurances?
This is just a process. It may involve the courts, which irks me to no death because it's spending money on lawyers as opposed to planting trees. But it is a process that I'm confident that JNF will prevail.
You mentioned the planting the trees, the blue boxes. We all have this this nostalgic remembrance of people of a certain age of, putting little stickers of green leaves on the classroom chart and going to Israel and bar mitzvahs, you got a tree, a grove, whatever. But in the documents, the original founders admitted that they weren't buying trees, they weren't paying for trees, they weren't paying for any infrastructure. It was just to pay indigent laborers. That was the real thing they were doing. They were paying salaries of poor Ethiopians and Russians and people from North Africa from the beginning. And they didn't do any of the other stuff that they market. And they didn't change until 2017.
Ellen, money is fungible. If JNF Canada is paying labor, it means that KKL is not. And so they have money to spend to buy the trees. It's the same idea.
Is anybody asking from the board members or people like yourselves for a meeting, for, a Zoom, or did that already happen, that you want assurances, you want to be updated?
I've been speaking with Lance. Lance reached out to me as soon as this became an issue, and he brought me in the tent and was completely transparent with me.
I know that there's a lot of people out there that heard this and felt that it was bias because complaints from anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian groups who started all this, and that this was kind of anti-Semitism. Does any of that ring true for you? Do you agree with that? Or do you think it's just, as you said, bureaucracy gone rogue?
I believe it's the latter. Listen, this has been an issue since 1967. And why is it happening now? I can think of 100 reasons. One of them being what you described, but I don't know. What I do know is that this will be an issue behind us sooner than later.
Okay, so if you were the average Canadian, not in the top donors, but the average Canadian who, gets a phone call on Tu B'Shvat and says, donate to Kisufim or somewhere, one of the new projects, what should they know? Should they trust the JNF anymore, Canada?
100%. This is a goof that should have been fixed, but wasn't, and will be fixed, and it doesn't change JNF's important impact in Israeli society, in Israeli infrastructure. So just stay tuned. Thank you.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily. For now, JNF Canada is not winding down its charitable operations while the matter is before the courts. If you're a donor and you want to share your views with us, we're at info@thecjn.ca. Our show is produced by Zachary Kauffman, and our executive producer is Michael Fraiman, and the show's theme is composed by Dov Beck-Levine. Thanks for listening.
The Ashkenaz Festival, North America's largest celebration of Jewish music, arts, and culture, is happening at venues across Toronto from August 27th to September 2nd. Witness diverse musical expressions of the Jewish experience, from klezmer and Yiddish styles to Sephardic, Mizrahi, Falasha music, and much more. Go to ashkenaz.ca for venue and ticket information.